All right, all right. All right. Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be joining us from. I am Aaron from Solace, joining you live from Solace, Singapore, from the office here. It is Tuesday, October 25th, and we have a special office hours presentation for you today, rather than just kind of going through the community and looking at questions, open questions, and answering questions live on air. We have a special guest all the way from headquarters in Ottawa, Canada. I'm happy to bring in Darryl MacRae. Hello.
Hey, Aaron, how you doing?
How are you? I'm good. It's evening time here, 10 p.m. in Singapore. What's it like where you are at?
8 a.m. Nice and early.
All right. That is pretty early. So, welcome to the stream. It's good to have you. I actually don't know if I've ever had someone from headquarters from R&D on my office hours. I pick and choose people from the field team. A lot of SEs have done this with me, but you might be the first. So welcome. Glad to have you.
Thanks.
Do you want to give people a little introduction? Say who you are and where you're from and what's going on.
Sure. So like Aaron said, I'm Darryl MacRae. I'm a product manager here at Solace, specifically for the Event Portal product. So all about event management right now. I've been here for a while, worked on the broker itself for a few years, and now I'm solely focused on Event Portal.
Okay, well, awesome. Well, I'm in Singapore. Darryl is in Ottawa, and we're always interested to know where people are joining us from. So if you're out there, you can hear me. Put it in the chat just to say hello. Where are you joining? Like, we have people all over the world using Solace, and hopefully this time of broadcast kind of hits a lot of people. So kind of middle afternoon in Europe, morning time in North America, and maybe if anybody's watching us before bed here in Asia Pac. Let us know where you're joining from. Okay, so usually on my office hours, we'll kind of head over to Solace Community, solace.community, which is your kind of one-stop shop for all things Solace questions and answers. We do early access APIs, special announcements, all sorts of stuff like that, where people can kind of get some information about Solace. But today's special presentation, Darryl is going to be kind of demoing and discussing this new Event Portal 2.0 that Solace has been building for quite some time now, and is going to be released imminently. I think? Yes.
Yes, you're right, Aaron.
Yeah. When's the date? We've been waiting.
2.0 for the initial functionality in 2.0. We're going to be releasing it like on November 1st is the target right now. So the initial functionality, which I'll show you a bit of in a bit, will be available. In November, 1st of November.
Okay, so for those joining who maybe they're familiar with Solace as a broker, the runtime engine to help move data around between distributed applications, publish, subscribe, all that stuff, perhaps don't know that much about the Event Portal. We started working on it. Solace started working on this a couple of years ago, doing the version 1. And it's really, well, Darryl, do you want to give a description? And because you probably know it better than I do, actually.
It's essentially an event management product, and we call it the single place where you would design, discover, visualize, catalog all your event streams, secure, and basically manage them. So manage all of the event interfaces of each application and how applications interact via those events. So we not only help you create those things and extend event-driven architectures, but build initial ones as well. And if you already have an event-driven architecture, we can help populate Event Portal by doing discovery in 1.0. That's coming right now. We're working on that in 2.0. It's not going to be available yet in the November release, but that'll come next. And then so we connect to the runtime, the intent is, and continually audit and help you import and flag any discrepancies that may be found. So
the way that I, and a lot of us in the field team have kind of, helped evangelize and discuss the Event Portal and why you need it. I mean, if you look at, from an analogous perspective, kind of REST over HTTP, kind of RESTful APIs, there is a ton of tooling all around that in terms of management portals, right? So, you have your actual wireline HTTP communication. There are Swagger or Open API documentations that will describe a RESTful API. There's code generation that you can do on the back of that. But there's also a portal to help manage, to document, to version, and it might actually tie into the runtime as well. So if it's tied to a gateway, then your REST message will come in, it goes through the gateway, and it can actually do some validation and whatever's in the portal for schema compliance, all sorts of other stuff. So it's this kind of product. This was not available. All of our customers have been using Excel spreadsheets to keep track of their topics, or like Visio diagrams to figure out who's talking to who and what's going where. There hasn't been a real, for the event-driven world, for the PubSub world, this doesn't exist. So we're rolling it out, and we're rolling out version 2, which is pretty spectacular. I think the biggest, well, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I'm gonna have to say, like, versioning is like kind of the big thing in version 2 that was added, that a lot of people have been asking for, a lot of customers, in terms of like being able to support production kind of style deployments. It was the thing that was kind of missing from version 1. So big.
Yeah, that was the biggest gap for sure, and the biggest change in going to 2.0. So adding version control, so you could update your schemas without breaking people's code who's using existing older versions of schemas, and therefore the events and of course the app interfaces. So we version control everything now in 2.0, and you have your lifecycle states for each of those versions of each of those kind of EDA components.
Yeah. As someone who's kind of worked with the event portal, the new beta 2.0 for quite some time, versioning is the heart and soul of it now. Like everything, every event, every schema, everything has a version. And that kind of really makes it, and there's, kind of smart, we'll do the demo. We're going to do the demo. I don't want to, again, say anything that maybe you're saving for the preview. Anyway, let's see who's out there listening. Hey, Giri, hello. Thanks for joining. Sounds good. Love the music. Oh yes, excellent. That is open source Creative Commons music that I found on a free website years ago, and it's been my unofficial theme song for quite some time. All my developer videos start with that. Hey, Tamimi from Vancouver. Good morning. Super early for you. Listening from the gym today. Excellent. Okay. Well, maybe this will be a podcast one day, rather than just broadcasting video. Nick. All right. Event Portal 2.0. Yes, that's what we're going to be talking about. So, Darryl, without any further ado, let me hide this giant banner here. I'm going to share your screen if that's all right, and we'll kick things off.
Yeah, let's do that. And I'll kind of give you a little overview of 2.0 and give some context on it. So this is basically the cloud console right now. So we call it PubSub Plus Cloud. That's where we have event management and of course our managed brokers. So the event streaming section. Obviously, we'll focus right here today. For those of you who have access to Event Portal already, whether it's a free trial account or a paid subscription, you'll notice now, since we started rolling out 2.0 as beta, we can actually enable it in parallel with 1.0. So you can continue to use 1.0 in your production loads, but we want to get people using 2.0. So we just turn it on. And then in 2.0, we have similar areas of the screen: designer, catalog, but instead of discovery, we now have what we call a runtime event manager, which will essentially supersede what discovery is able to do in 1.0. It's also where the graphs now live of each of your EDAs in all of the different environments. So with 2.0, like Aaron said, the biggest change is version support, but you do want to promote application versions through environments as per your software development lifecycle processes, and this is kind of where all of those exist. When you get in there, of course, there's a little introductory video that I did, but you wouldn't have to watch if you watch this demo. You can get access to the course, and of course, links right straight to the documentation.
Awesome.
For Event Portal. So 2.0. Like 1.0, we document new features basically same day we release the features. So it's fully documented already as well. So if I go into the various components and kind of take you through, The designer is basically where we design the components. So we separate these from an RBAC perspective, role-based access, by application domains. And those can align with your teams or operational processes, departments, things like that. You can pretty much align these to however you want, functionally as well. If I drill into one, I got Acme Retailer. You can see all the different components, and here's where you create them and manage these different components. So we have applications, we have events, schemas, even enumeration for the event topic addresses. So for various levels of an event topic address, you can even create enumerations and version control those. And
that's new in 2.0, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like version 1 didn't really have the concept of
we had enumerations, but you couldn't version control them. So you could break somebody else's, and they were at the global level. So you couldn't basically secure who had access to which ones and share certain enumerated variables and not others. Now they're in the context of these application domains too. So you enjoy all the benefits of RBAC at the same time.
One thing I'll mention there, Darryl, is some people who are using version 1 for some time might have noticed that there was a graphical view of your application domains, right? All these different little hexes and kind of kind of a grid visual view. And because we've added versioning in there, it doesn't really lend itself to just kind of like an overview like that, because there's different versions that can maybe talk to different things. So that's why some of that graphical view has kind of moved into the runtime that you talked about a little bit earlier on, right?
Exactly. With all of the graphs, now they're in the context of applications publishing to a specific broker or mesh of brokers, event mesh. So it only makes sense to really display what's actually being published and subscribed, or which applications are connected to those brokers in any given environment. So that's why we really, with 2.0, in addition to adding the versioning, we really want to model the runtime really tightly and model it the way it accurately, the way it actually is. So events get published into an event mesh and therefore are available for subscribing by other applications in that event mesh by an application being connected to that, a broker in that event mesh and publishing that event. And that's basically exactly how it happens in reality, and it's how we model it. All this so that we can eventually not only discover and audit your design intent versus what's in the runtime and make sure they're in sync and flag them when they diverge or when there's a discrepancy between the two, but also eventually we'll actually push down configuration changes, of course, to the brokers to enable access to events for applications, and only the events that they've been approved access for, and allow only those applications to only publish the events they're allowed to publish to the topics they're allowed to publish them to.
I was going to ask you about that a little bit later, actually, about configuration, but I didn't want to. All right, I'll come back. Well, let's circle back to that a little bit later. So,
sure.
Getting into the.
So basically, also in the context of an application domain, now what we also have is what we call event APIs. So this is the ability to create an event API, kind of analogous to a REST or synchronous-based API. That where you can define one or more events and whether you can publish or subscribe to those events. So it's basically defining an API that could be used by applications. So in addition to defining the event API,
That's right.
you can even define event API products, which is essentially basically, aligns with a business function potentially. So, and it consists, an event API product would consist of one or more event APIs, and of course the events that you could publish or subscribe to within that event API. But it also consists of plans. So you can have gold or silver or bronze plans, and they really equate to a class of service. Or like, for instance, whether you want guaranteed messaging or direct messaging. If it's guaranteed, what's the depth, the queue depth or the quota on a queue? So gold plans would have bigger queues, store stuff for longer, where you could have a bronze plan where it's just direct messaging. You get the events if you're connected. If you're not, we don't send them to you.
So just as a kind of related, I mean, so I've written a lot of demos with Solace, and there are a lot of us in the field have written demos, and we have generally some dashboards that maybe kind of pump data into a map or some kind of graphical interface. For example, my taxi demo that we have running live, the bus demo where you have buses in Singapore driving around. There's a flight tracker demo with kind of North American flight data that's being pumped out. All of that, in terms of if an event API could define the topics and payloads, I guess, of these messages that, so if you wanted to connect up to this feed to like receive this data, the event API would define the topic hierarchy and the different variables maybe in the topic hierarchy. And then the event API product would actually be kind of like where you actually connect to, right? The actual kind of runtime for that event API. So the event API is like the format, and then the event API product kind of adds in here's the port, here's the URL, here's the queue maybe that you want to listen to for guaranteed data. And we'll make it so that you can just hopefully click a button and kind of hook up to that service, that product, very low fuss, right?
Exactly. Basically self-serve. The idea is that we could take these event API products, which are now fully accessible via a REST API off of Event Portal itself, and integrate them into dev portals, so third-party API management platform developer portals. And there's a lot of those out there. So there's clearly a market for that for synchronous APIs. So we're adding the first asynchronous APIs to that. Most of our customers are saying that they want one dev portal for both their synchronous APIs and asynchronous APIs, so their developers don't have to kind of swivel chair or have multiple portals for different types of APIs. So we're integrating into those is kind of the idea. And then they would, like Aaron said, basically click on one, request access to that event API product, whether it's a specific one like this one where it's the product launch event API product, and what the gold plan status would consist of, which we give an overview. And the idea is after it's approved, such access for a particular product that they're registering, we will eventually provision that on the brokers and really make it full self-service and automated end to end. We're not quite there on the provisioning.
No, not yet.
Flow, but we have the provider flow right here.
That's right. Speaking of the API that you touched on there, I think I might, if depending on time and how things go, I might have a little demo a little bit later on. But people want to use the tools that they use. They don't want to have to add yet another thing that they're doing, right? So the Event Portal 2.0, we've also been building a fully self-serve REST API to grab all this data out of it. So I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more. A couple more people saying hello. Hello, Rohit. How's it going? Good to have you. Abhikesh from Bangalore. Hello and welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Good to have you. All right, Darryl, back to you.
Yeah. So like we were saying earlier, both Aaron and I, the version control is a huge aspect of Event Portal 2.0. And now for any application, if I kind of drill in, so we're in again.
Do you want to zoom in one click just to see if the font will go a little bit bigger without messing up? Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay, it's pretty big on my screen, but whatever works for the
hopefully
audience.
It stays formatted. Let's see.
So basically, once you drill into the Acme retailer application domain, so we have all of these different components. If I look at applications, or I could look at events or schemas or whatever, but look, if I look at an application, I can see here's my legacy order management system app. If I drill into that, I can see all of the different versions.
Wow, that's a lot of versions
of each of that. It's a legacy system, right? So it's been around for a while, right?
Sure,
so for instance, you have old retired ones. You have the latest deprecated one of a release 5. You have a lot of retired release 6 ones, and the latest released version there. And then with each of these applications, just like you can do in 1.0, you can see which events it publishes, which events it subscribes to, and so forth. Similarly, for an event, we'll have all of these events. If you click on an order status event, for instance, you can see all of the versions, the historical versions of that event, what the differences are, and so forth.
And there's the topic right there. So an event is a topic and a schema in terms of that's kind of what makes
exactly
event unique, right?
So and the topics, like in Solace, always a good topic structure is very important, of course, and Aaron has lots of videos on that. And so basically, at different levels of the topic, you can have either these what we call literal levels, or variable levels. And variables, there's two different types, basically a enumerated type variable, and this is where we kind of replace an enumeration within it, or like an unbounded variable, where they'd be like
whatever
IDs
you want. Yeah,
exactly.
GUIDs or anything, eh?
And for the enumerated ones, we could see the valid values of those, and as part of obviously the event, you could also even see the schema for the event and all the details of the actual schema.
I noticed you don't have any draft versions of this event, so I guess you're not working on a new version yet, eh?
We're not, and I'll show you how you would create those and then kind of promote them to an environment, maybe change the state of it. We also have for each of these objects, whether it be application or event or schema, all of the things referencing it. So for this event, you can see which applications are publishing this event. So some of the old retired versions of things. So you can really see where this event is still being used. And if you want to deprecate it, which applications would still be using it that you'd have to move on to a newer released version of the event, for instance. So yeah, that's just kind of the different components there and version control of those. Like I said, so if I go to catalog, of course we have to detail not only versions in the catalog, but you want to see what versions. Now it's not just the event; it's which event versions they are, and so we list the versions of each of these things. Like I said, if you click on, say I click on the customer relationship management, I can see all the versions, old versions of that application. I can also, by hovering over the version, see which environments that application actually exists in. So if it's in development or if it's in staging, this one is the deprecated and retired ones are no longer in any environment, so that we move those out. But you can actually see which environments these different applications are available in and deployed in.
So the catalog, I guess, is so the designer is for where you go to actually build this stuff and enter in schema details and create new relationships like publish and subscribe. The catalog is where you can go and search across your whole organization or within a particular domain or either.
Yeah. Either you can actually search the whole. It's globally, so it's across all your environments, all your event meshes in all your environments. You can search for all of these components and find out where they are. You can also actually filter. I just want to look at my Acme retailer application domain applications. I just want to look at released applications, or I want to see all the deprecated ones and who's using those. So I can move them on to the latest release, so I can retire those deprecated, applications. You could see which, you could even filter on broker types. Solace, you could filter on which event mesh in an environment. So you could actually drill it down and see anything in any area. So let's look at my dev event mesh in my development environment, and then I could see all of the applications in there.
So the event mesh is kind of the description of the actual runtime environment, the broker or brokers, and where they're running, and kind of some information around how to connect to them, or just
Yeah, so if we go into the Runtime Event Manager, and this is the new area in Event Portal 2.0, and this is again where we're
if it's not clear to people, I actually haven't seen Darryl's demo, so I'm actually quite intrigued by some of these features here that we're seeing here. So I'm still new at some of this stuff too. So
no, this is great. So this is great questions, right? So Runtime Event Manager is like I said, our new area. that is where we start to model the different environments in Event Portal. So in this case, I have a development environment, a staging environment, and a production environment. In each of these environments, I have 2 event meshes. So I have a Solace one and a Kafka one in each environment here. If I actually select like the Solace one, for instance.
Are those environment labels kind of, do you have to pick from a pick list, or do you get to choose? Because like other people would say UAT or test or pre-production or
completely customizable to however, and the number is up to you as well, right? So if you have test performance environment, you have a UAT environment, you could create environments per your needs, and you could have dev 1, dev 2, dev 3, dev 4 environment as well, or you could have multiple event meshes in just one environment.
Right.
When you create a modeled event mesh, you would give it a name, and then you would select the environment. So if we drill into a particular event mesh, again, this is where applications are publishing or connecting to and publishing and subscribing from. So any subscription that an application has on a queue would only attract events that are actually being published to that event mesh, as would be the case in real life. So depending on where you connect your applications, you could get different events just based off of the other applications publishing into that environment.
Right.
So in this case, we have all of the applications that are in that environment, and we have, of course, the graph.
Yeah, there's our graph that we were missing since version 1. All right.
Yeah, so the graph is back, and now we have multiple graphs. So we have instead of one graph in Designer with everything in it and we have all these new versions now. So that graph would get really busy, and that doesn't make sense to have graphs there any longer because of all those versions that I was showing you. So it really is only applicable to what's deployed at a given time against a particular mesh, right? So that's what we're showing here. All these applications are connected to this event mesh, and so therefore publishing and subscribing to events from that event mesh, and it'll show all of the relationships as a result. Also, now in 2.0, we actually can change the layout. So when you go back, if you have a preference on how this is laid out, you can actually just publish it so that everybody. It's not random.
Oh, that's cool. That's
how we have algorithms that lay it out, but it can get frustrating if they have to go back and reorganize that all the time.
I know that has been requested many times by people in the field, that it's somewhat infuriating to like lay it all out nice, and then they come back and things are in the wrong spot, or someone else loads it up and it's not in the same. So that's great. I'm happy to see that.
Exactly. And the next one that people are asking for is snap to grid. I believe Aaron.
I was just gonna say I've asked for this for like forever, and I was gonna put you like on the spot live here on air and say, can you commit to a snap to grid?
We'll get it there. We have as a product manager, I have to do the highest priority features next, but we'll
if you're listening to this live and you want snap to grid, put it in the chat and we'll make Darryl do it. Put it in the chat. Come on, I want to have some.
We definitely listen to feedback. We definitely listen to all your feedback. So absolutely, we'll get it there. I just don't know exactly when. It's not in the next 3 months, because we're planning out 3 months in advance.
Sure. Okay.
So you can see all of the applications. Obviously, as you click on an application over here, you see it in the list. You can add or remove applications from this event mesh. Phil wants snap to grid as well.
Yes.
So you can actually promote these applications to a subsequent event mesh in a different environment. So, and I can give you an example of how we and what we would do here. So, and then of course, the other thing is we list all of the events published to that event mesh. So these are the events that are being, would be available for subscribing to. So no matter what your subscription, you can only attract these events, and these events only. And again, tightly coupled and modeled to the real runtime, how it really works in the runtime with our brokers.
So let me ask you a question here. So, I mean, you've got these environments that you can kind of customize the name of them and this and that. So you can have your dev, your test. But like, what about kind of, tags or metadata on events, for example? I know that there's a description in the event version. There's a description in the schema version where you can have some text and kind of explain what you're doing. But like, what if you wanted to like tag a particular event with, confidential, or it's sensitive, or like some kind of source system, like some way of, I don't know, adding additional metadata to an event that might not be part of the schema payload, for example. Is that possible?
Well, we actually added a functionality, the first iteration of it, just last week. It's called custom attributes.
Yes.
For instance, an event, if I pick like a promotion status event, I actually added a new custom attribute called data sensitivity. So if I edit this event, I can actually give it a sensitivity rating for this event data. Excuse me. So I could say this is a high, low, medium sensitivity. So if I give, okay, this is a promotion status, that's low sensitivity. Just whether we're promoting this product or not. In this case of the Acme retailer, so I could give it a low. I save that event, and now this attribute is saved against an event, just like like your description, your version name attributes, similar. This one is at the event level, at the parent object level. So you can do these. So I don't have to set this for every new version I create, but you could also make them at the version level as well.
Oh, you can do both. Okay.
Or you can do both. So if I manage custom attributes, I could add it at the version level, or I could add it at the event level. The data sensitivity rating would be added. I added it at this level, but if I added a new one here, at the version, I don't know, I could call it some other system ID. You could link systems.
Yeah.
System X ID, we'll call it, right? So this is just a new attribute, and then this version of an event, you could give it an ID in another system, and then they're linkable. So, and not only that, Aaron, if you can go in the catalog now, and if I go to events, say I clear these filters that I filtered a while ago, I can actually add a filter. I can show all of the released events again, all of the events in an application domain, all the shared events versus non-shared. Or I can say, okay, I want all the events, data sensitivity events. So add that filter, and I can say, okay, I only want the highly sensitive events and to view those.
That's cool. That can really help.
Filter that out by the highly sensitive data in your system, in your event-driven architecture. And you can see what events those are and so forth. So that's the first iteration. We plan to enhance that over time with valid values, with mandatory versus optional attributes as well. Attributes, these are globally scoped right now. We'll even give you the ability at some point to scope them to an app domain and only within that app domain, for instance. So they're going to provide more flexibility. Right now, we just, we do iterative development. So we wanted to get it out there, get some feedback. What people like to get next.
Do those actually make it out onto like the wire at runtime, or has that not been decided yet? Like if you're publishing that event, like is that metadata in the event message or
it isn't. It isn't. It's just metadata about the event, similar to the description of the event. However, you raise a good point. We'll eventually have to obviously model headers, topic headers, and they're similar. They will be similar to custom attributes. The underlying technology will be very much the same, but that would make it out, in the runtime, of course.
Or things like user properties. Solace supports a map of key value paired user properties. So does MQTT. So does AMQP. It's how JMS does selectors. Those are kind of not part of the payload, but also not really in the header. They're kind of in between, right? They're just kind of extra things.
So that's where we'll iterate over time with adding those.
Cool.
So that some of these things will be runtime related. Some are just complete metadata for
design time and just to where the story. Yeah. So I guess that's related to the tag. Is that similar to tags? I guess in V1, right? Like in V1 we had tags, and you could tag this event or this data as the taxi demo, for example. So you could easily find the taxi demo data. I assume this is related?
It is similar, but we will bring back tags too. We plan to bring back tags and be able to filter on tags. We realize that as your event-driven architectures get very large, it becomes a lot to manage. So you need to be able to focus on your use case, or the objects from your department or part of the organization, or functionally I want all billing systems to be only appear here, and we'll make those filterable in the catalog as well, of course. But yeah, we'll bring back tags as well. These are more attribute value pairs, but different kind of some overlapping use cases, but can be used differently as well.
So we have a question from the chat from YouTube from Gary here. What is the impact of released versus draft and others states on the event or application at runtime specifically? Which
yes,
I don't think we have a solid answer yet for that. So
well, there's no impact at runtime, other than if it's best practices would dictate that you only released applications would make it into higher level environments, right? So to your staging or UAT and the production. So all those app definitions would be once moved to release and approved to go into these environments. And I'll show you how we would promote applications through environments. Then they're not editable. Excuse me. They're no longer editable once they're released in Event Portal. So if I go back to Designer, and I go into my Acme retailer, and I go to my events, and I pick, say, an order status event. Once it's released, I can't edit this attribute. I can edit the custom attributes, but I cannot edit the topic address. I cannot edit the schema of this. Also,
if there was a typo or something went wrong, you would have to rev the small version number and do a 1.2.2 or something, and then
so either you could move this guy back to draft, right? You can, but that's blocked in many cases if this event is being published by a released application. And I can actually try that, and it'll actually stop me if it says cannot be changed. This version is due to a conflict with other reference objects.
7 apps, very popular.
All these apps are actually publishing or subscribing to this released event. You're going to screw up those apps if you change this. So what you would do is you create a new version of that event. Say I wanted to create a new version, or if it's a typo, it automatically just does the patch release. Then I would change something. I need to add a period here. I could save that version, and then I have a draft version. Then at this point you can edit this version. But that edit option goes away as soon as it is released. And then like I said, you can't release an application if it's publishing draft events, because somebody might change the schema of that event and break your thing. So we're kind of helping developers in this totally decoupled but highly interdependent environment of EDA, of event-driven architecture, right? Completely decoupled, but everybody depends on everybody not to screw everybody else's stuff up.
It's the schema and the topic that become the contract between these applications, right? So they're decoupled, yes, but if we're not speaking the exact same language, specification, whatever, not language in like programming language, I'm saying just like colloquial language.
It's like a contract, right? These events can be, like I said earlier, bundled together as an API, and an API is a contract, right? So you version those as well.
I'm going to take a guess that Gary might be referring to perhaps auditing the runtime actual broker. So, it's not possible today, I know that, but I'm pretty sure that we're thinking about building audit capabilities to monitor real-time data as it's flowing across and generate alerts, generate notifications when we see this is a draft event on a production appliance, or this is a invalid topic for that, something or other. I mean, I'm sure we're working on stuff like that eventually, right?
We are. We're working on discovery and audit right now. And what that'll do is essentially we'll have what we call an event management agent, which will connect to brokers, scan those brokers for the config data, and also even the topic data for Solace, which isn't config data, as you know. we'll pull that data back in terms of, okay, all the queues and the subscriptions on the queues, and then audit that runtime versus the design time intent in one of these modeled event meshes. And so if I find in the runtime that this queue has way more subscriptions than intended in the design time, we'll flag that as a discrepancy and say, there's a potential vulnerability or exploited vulnerability here. You might want to lock that down, right? Or I just update it, the runtime is correct. Update my design to add these subscriptions in my design. So
go either way.
You want to make sure they're in sync.
Yes.
Different operational processes will have one as the database of record, and that is, that's basically up to, sometimes it's a religious thing. Sometimes you want this, sometimes you want that. It's as long as one of them is, and you agree on them, and you keep the two in sync, and you flag when they're not. Basically, we'll it's like that becomes accurate, right?
Which is the golden source? You always have to define somewhere sometimes.
Exactly.
And we have lots of customers where the broker configuration on the broker is the golden source, and that's what it's supposed to be, right? And then you'll off-box that once a day and maybe do configuration deltas against that. Or you'll have some configuration management tooling that's like, this is the golden source, and we'll use SEMP or something else to kind of make sure that the broker's in sync. So now we're actually going to be kind of building that, I guess, into some of that, at least into the portal here for doing that kind of configuration management, right?
Exactly. So that audit it's not only just to detect and keep things in sync, but it's also to help you populate Event Portal from an existing event-driven architecture that you have running over brokers, and so you don't have to do it all manually. There is some manual touch points, of course, that an enterprise architect or app architect would have to fill in, of course, to get it populated initially. But a lot of that will be automated. And
I know that, Discovery we've been working on that first. For people that don't know, Discovery is a capability that we're building. We have some open source components that can help you do this, an agent that you can run in your own existing environment, whether it's Kafka clusters, whether you have Solace brokers, whether you have other messaging or eventing products like Nats or Rabbit. And it will actually connect to the brokers, scan them for information, both admin data and sometimes runtime data, message data going across, and pull all that into the portal so you can visualize it. Sometimes you have to do a bit of manual tweaking. For example, it might know that these are publishers, but maybe they don't have a name, right? We don't say, okay, I know that this publisher is, this particular app. And so I'll tag it to that, or I'll rename it or something. There's some tweaking that you might have to do, but being able to visualize what you have in the runtime is pretty awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And almost it's essential. It's essentially what I always say is like Event Portal is like a window into your event-driven architecture, and you can visualize all of the app interactions through those events that are running over your brokers that you couldn't otherwise beforehand. Yeah. So I could actually show you how we could extend, from an existing event-driven architecture. You got Event Portal populated. Yeah. Maybe you want to extend it. So, say I go in leave, and then I go into my designer. I find a new application in my Acme retailer use case. Say I have this legacy order management system. Okay, it's being published to maybe an IBM MQ broker, and someday we added a connector to connect the IBM MQ to Solace and a Solace event mesh. So now those events are getting published onto that Solace event mesh. So therefore, they're kind of unlocked and available for other applications on that event mesh to subscribe to. Yeah. So if I select this guy, I can actually add the latest released version of that legacy to an environment. So if I add it to the dev environment, of course you want to start in dev. Add it to my dev event mesh.
Hopefully, yeah.
And then if I go into the dev environment, I can see what that looks like. So, okay, right now I got this new legacy order management system that it's publishing an order status event. But it looks like this is an older version, order status event. This is 1.1 and this version is 1.2.
Oh, there's two different versions. All right.
Yeah, so this is it looks like it's publishing a deprecated version of this event. So I could even, view the details of this event. Okay, it's yeah, it definitely is deprecated, and it's got a deprecated schema.
Yeah.
So if I view this in Designer, I can actually see what's different on this deprecated event. Maybe it's fine and it's totally backwards compatible, the schema, and you don't need to update it because it is a legacy system, or maybe it's not. So the deprecated event is this guy. So, and what's the difference in this? In the latest release one, see, it adds this customer ID field, and the deprecated one is using a deprecated schema. The released one is using a new version of that schema. And so at the schema, I could see
different.
Yeah, here that customer ID attribute is added at the end of that schema. So basically, there's additional information in this latest released event that wasn't in the previous one. So I might want to create a new version of the legacy order management application that publishes the latest version of the event if that's important data coming from that application.
Can you do diffs? I don't think you can, but maybe that's a good idea. We should add that.
Yeah, we can't yet, but that is something we could definitely look at for sure. Yeah, and then again this deprecated event, you could see which applications are publishing that event, and it's really only this old order legacy event. So maybe you want to publish the latest released one. So if I go there, I have my 6.2.3 is the latest release version. Again, it's publishing an old version of this event, a deprecated one. I want to create a new version of that.
Yeah, we can't change it because it's released, right? Like
a lot of people are depending on that, in the legacy system. So, but maybe I want to create a new version, and then I will manage these events.
So you duplicated it, and so that just that copies everything over from the previous one.
So it makes it easy to create the new one. So I see it's publishing this deprecated version. Let me just not publish that guy and publish the latest release version with that customer ID information in the schema. I save this version, and then I can even add this to that environment. So I add this latest version to my development environment, my dev event mesh. If I go back here, refresh this guy. So now I will have two versions of this legacy order management app. So I'm going to have, so I have this new version. It's draft. I want to remove the old one, the older one, just because I'm in the dev environment. I want to make sure that this is all working. I'll remove that guy.
And that'll automatically clean
now up. He's publishing the latest version here. So and everybody's getting the latest version. And with that, now you can see that the dash line, it means that
what's that mean?
It's a draft. It's in draft state. So anything with a dash line. So you wouldn't want to see, things with dash lines in your prod environment. Environment, right? Yeah. So basically, if I go and release this guy, so I can change the state. I can release one.
I have a related question. I don't know. So the controls around, you can't change a release to a draft. You can't edit a released. Is that in the portal or is that in the API or both? Because
both. Yeah.
Okay.
That's basically controlled the API. We're trying to be a platform first product. So API first all the way. It's fully. So some people will use Event Portal as a headless or read-only system, and they won't even do any edits here. They'll just do them all via the API. But yeah, that's limited at the API, so you cannot override that.
Good.
And all those
I was like, can you hack this somehow? Can you kind of go in there and change a release?
Cannot. We're basically helping people not shoot themselves in the foot with their design, right? So whether you do it directly via the API or not. Yeah. And of course, I mean, you mentioned the API. So if I go into the about, this is where you can leave here.
Yeah, let's talk about APIs for a while. We're coming up on the top of the hour there, Darryl. We can go a little bit longer if that's all right. But show the API and then it'll
Yeah, so this is fully
segregated,
documented API. Everything that's available in the UI is available via the API. And in fact, the UI actually uses the API. So we're not even cheating. We're eating our own dog food, as they say, or drinking our own champagne, depending on your point of view.
Yeah.
So basically, they fully documented, available, published. And our UI uses it, but you can integrate to it, and there's a lot of integrations.
So all the it's using Swagger Open API for that specification. So all the documentation is there, and because of that, you can do code generation off the back of it, which is what our team, the developer advocates within the CTO org, have been working on for the last couple of months. Various little integrations here and there. They're all mostly getting wrapped up. We have some Slack integration. We have some Confluence integration. IntelliJ is the plugin that I was working on. We have some Jenkins integrations, and helper wrapper libraries to kind of, so you don't have to use the raw generated event portal code, because some of the things like are kind of common, I don't know, reusable type of behaviors, right? Like I want to query across all of the domains, or I want to query, or I want to do these series of updates. So we're building a bunch of tooling to help with integrations into your favorite tool, so you don't have to necessarily go to the portal. And be able to pull the data from the portal and use the portal without actually having to click in the GUI. So we've helped R&D kick the tires a little bit, found a few things here and there that, like as customers, we're essentially your first customer, right? Helping to kind of
exactly. And a lot of good work there in terms of integrating to other systems. Like Event Portal won't be the center for everything, right? The software doesn't exist there, just the event interface definition exists there. So you definitely want to integrate with other development tools, of course.
Yep. If you want, I can give a real quick 5-minute crash demo. We have actually about 5 minutes left. Unless there's something more that you.
Oh no, go ahead, Aaron, for sure.
You're going to show. Because I haven't seen your demo, so I actually don't know. All right, give me a second here. Let me share my screen, and I'm gonna have to. Let me switch this to the second monitor. Add to stream. There's my event portal. All right. Hopefully this is readable. So yeah, I've been a user of the Event Portal 2.0 API for the last since about July. As I said, quite a few people on our team, the developer advocate team, have been building some tooling, and this is IntelliJ IDEA, probably the most popular Java IDE there is. I still use Eclipse though, so old school. But IntelliJ has this awesome dark mode, so people love to use it. Anyway, it's very extensible. You can build plugins for it. All of these little tabs here at the bottom and the side, they're actual plugins that you can load in. It comes with built-in ones, and there's a marketplace that you can go and look for plugins. You'll notice down at the bottom here, I have the Solace Event Portal plugin. So this is mine. It's a work in progress. It will be all open source. It's all on GitHub. I'm working on some documentation for it to let people know how it works. But you go ahead and add in your token. That's one thing I guess we didn't talk about, Darryl, was in terms of access to the API, you can go in through the portal and specify a user token and specify which parameters or which read-only or read-write, or for all the different objects. So you can really kind of fine-tune specific access to how you want to access the portal. And then, you click this little run button, and it will go off and query the event portal and load up some data. So very similar looking to the event portal itself. You'll have your applications tab here. You have events tab, schemas, event APIs, and event API products that we were talking about. Now, one thing that I thought I would do a little bit differently than how the portal draws it is mine's all hierarchical. So it's a table, but I made it act as a tree. So you can actually kind of drill down into these different versions. Here's my application. Application version is underneath that. An application version will define an event version. An event version will define a schema, for example. And so you have this kind of nested view of, per domain, or maybe if you just want to look across all of your domains. You have just view it alphabetically. And you can go and you can double click on one. It'll kind of expand everything that's there. You'll notice that even the icons, so this is a published event because it's a half that way. This is a subscribed event because it's a little half moon that way. And yeah, it basically allows you to kind of browse, for a particular application, what are the different events and what are the different schemas underneath there. Now, you can actually click on this, not meant to replace the portal. It's just to help you kind of view the event portal data in your IDE. If you click on any one of these names here, it will actually pop over to the portal. It'll kind of go in. And so if you want to see, I can't display all of the information. I can't display, like, the description's usually quite long. I'm not going to pull all of that data out and put it in that table. Come on here, loading. It's a little slow for me. My CPU is working hard here. It will eventually load up though. There we go. So yeah, you can actually kind of click on, a schema or an event or an app and see it actually in the portal, where you can see all of the information rather than just kind of this summary view.
Yeah, right in context of the version of the object that you clicked on.
That's right. Yep. So I want to know about this guy specifically. I have some little kind of, I see this is a Solace event. It has 2 versions. This version has 2 events that it references. You can see it. It's a JSON payload. I have some of the topic here. Well, I pulled in the state. So you have released and you have draft. Here, let me expand everything. Just let's get all of the data. There we go. So you can see some are released, some are draft. One thing we didn't talk about actually is our partnership or our work with Async API, the open source foundation that is helping to build a standardized schema specification for event-driven applications for publish subscribe. Very similar to what Swagger and SmartBear did, which became Open API. The Async API initiative is to help document and describe event-driven applications. And yeah, you can head over to it. We're helping them out. I think we attend some meetings and stuff. asyncapi.com, .org.com. I think either one works. To find out more information about this, but this is actually, this is where you can actually generate or describe an event-driven app based on, a schema, based on the topic, based on, who's publishing, who's subscribing. And you can actually pull that data out of the event portal. So if I click on this, of course I get an error. I love live demos. I was actually doing some development work on this yesterday, and I probably didn't quite finish what I was working. I should have used an old version. Anyway, that's embarrassing. Your demo went much more smoothly than mine did.
Well, I guess one good thing I could add to that, Aaron, is instead of defining your async API and just typing it into like Async API Studio, we can help you build the async API or event definition of an application just by selecting the schemas for the events and which events it's publishing and which events it's subscribing to with which subscriptions and how it's subscribing to those, and all graphically by point and click, and then you can export the async API spec doc for that application specific version right from the event portal. So it actually helps you build it and of course visualize it more graphically.
So the awesome part of this, if my demo kind of worked, is like the portal, our event portal API provides the ability to fetch that async API definition as well programmatically, right? You can make a REST call, say, give me the async API spec for this particular app, and or event API, because event APIs also produce an async API specification document. There's actually code generation tooling available from Async API org, where you can essentially generate a framework, a skeleton, a Java app, a Python app, I think a Go app that will publish and subscribe based on the data in your schema. And I actually built it in programmatically here, and I wish I could demo it. Doesn't matter. I guess I'll have to do another YouTube live stream where I actually get it working correctly and not embarrass myself. So stay tuned for that. It'll be maybe next month once I get these final bugs ironed out. But I hope you think it looks cool. I think it looks pretty awesome. I used a lot of the kind of standard IntelliJ palette colors for my little icons here. So it does look different than the portal, but that's because I thought it's a IntelliJ app. So let's make it look like IntelliJ. So anyway, what time is it? Hey, we're at the top of the hour, actually. Look at that. Darryl, do you have anything else you wanted to show, or?
No, I think we covered it. So again, the lifecycle management capabilities for Event Portal 2.0 going GA right at the end of October, 1st of November, basically.
All right. That is a date that everybody should be putting on their calendars. I know I am. I'll be, eating lots of candy and being quite happy with that from post Halloween. But yeah, November 1st, we're going to have EP 2.0 go GA. Yeah, I'm excited to see people try it and use it. And I'm sure there'll be some feedback. I'm sure there'll be a 2.1 at some point. But yeah, excited for the new discovery tooling. There's some awesome stuff, I think, coming down the pipe in the next year or so. My sunburst visualization, if people have seen the original version of that, stay tuned for version 2 of that. That's going to be pretty cool at some point as well. Thanks, Tamimi. Cool demos. You're welcome. Glad you I guess, I don't know, how was it from the gym? Could you see them, I guess, from the gym? Anyway, Darryl, thanks very much. Do you have any closing final words before we go?
No, just try it out. You can sign up right now, even get access to the beta even this week.
It's free to try. Do I have a link here? It's just go to solace.cloud. I'm sure you'll find a link to
Solace.com.
Right?
Yeah, solace.com, and then you'll find a link to Event Portal, and you can sign up for a free trial. No problem.
That's right. Okay. Oh, we got a thumbs up. Excellent. Phil says until Aaron's. Oh, thanks, Phil. Yeah, right. That it can't go perfect. There always has to be. We're live. I don't polish my demos that well. I'm off the cuff. That's my style. So yeah, you get what you get. So all right. Thanks, Gary. Darryl, it's been great. It's been a great hour. I hope people watch this and are excited about it. Thanks for joining, and have a great day.
Thanks for having me on. See you later.
Man. Okay. Thanks, everybody. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.